Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. We're going to finishing up the Druid, and in finishing up the Druid, we need to do the Creepers. There is currently 3 Vine Creepers, and we're going to start at the beginning, so we're going to start with the Poison Creeper. The Poison Creeper is a rather powerful low-level ability, does some pretty crazy poison damage early on. And it also is one of the only poison damage effects that actually stacks with other poison damage effects. That's right. The Poison Creeper was actually specifically made to stack with rabies because, well, it would be silly to have 2 poison abilities in the same character and they not stack together, which, you know, cough, cough, necromancer. But basically, if you are building a rabies druid, which you might, rabies is definitely something that synergizes with Poison Creeper. And Poison Creeper synergizes with rabies. So if you beef up Poison Creeper to its maximum level, you can see it does some pretty crazy damage output of 5,015 to 5,355 and has a life of 1,000. The damage output from Poison Creeper is actually pretty insane early on in the game and can actually kill pretty much everything from Act 1 normal all the way up till like hell difficulty until it starts to peter out a little bit. But even just the Poison Creeper itself, you will notice, does some pretty crazy damage. Now, how does the Poison Creeper attack? Well, the Poison Creeper makes a mat. And this is an interesting mechanic because the Poison Creeper itself is not dishing out the damage, the mat is. So the Poison Creeper will create a mat underneath of the monster's feet. When the mat is created, it does a pretty massive amount of poison damage to anything standing within that mat. And it will continue to apply that poison damage to anything standing on the mat for a pretty prolonged period of time. And as you can see, we've got some pretty good poison damage from this particular Poison Creeper. I mean, this isn't even, like, completely decked out, but he's level 39, which is pretty high. The poison damage that he does in fact actually stack with rabies. So if I were to use rabies as well, you'll actually notice that the poison damage from both is actually stackable. So now they have rabies, and they also get the mat damage from the Poison Creeper. And they die extra fast. A poison a poison werewolf isn't exactly like the most crazy thing out there, but it does do some pretty good damage. If you were going to build a summon druid, for instance, if you were to build all of the summon tree, a very interesting thing you could do is you could just drop 20 points into rabies for no other reason than to just synergize the Poison Creeper so that you have an additional form of damage. If you think about it, the ravens are physical damage, the summoned direwolves are physical damage, and the bear is physical damage, right? Then we also have the spirit wolf, which is cold damage, and then you would have the Poison Creeper, which is an additional poison damage on top of that. So you could potentially have 3 different elements at the same time for your summon group. It's just a way that you could tack on a little bit of extra damage into the midst. Now, because poison damage doesn't stack, unfortunately, even if the monster or monsters get hit by the Poison Creeper multiple times, it doesn't really mean anything, because once they're poisoned, they're poisoned. But if they ever become unpoisoned for any reason, and they walk back over the mat, they will have that duration refreshed, and they will dish out even more poison damage to the target. But it's never going to stack the poison damage multiple times. The only stacking poison damage that we can do is if we transform into the werewolf and bite her as well. And then she runs across the mat, she'll get both poison damages at the same time. Now, Poison Creeper can stack with other poisons as well, believe it or not. It's actually not rabies that stacks with Poison Creeper. It is Poison Creeper that was actually changed as a poison damage ability to stack differently with other poisons. So Poison Creeper actually does stack with things like Poison Nova, Venom, rabies, pretty much every poison damage ability in the game. Poison Creeper doesn't care because Poison Creeper is a separate poison entity entirely than all the others. Poison Creeper cannot be killed while he's under the ground either, which is also very interesting. So whenever the Poison Creeper is underneath the ground, he cannot be hit. The Poison Creeper can also not be knocked back, and he cannot be put into a faster hit recovery state, which makes the Poison Creeper actually kind of an interesting defensive mechanic, because the monsters will try and chase him down, but most of the time they can't hit him because he's underneath the ground, which means he's temporarily invulnerable whenever he is not at the surface. He also cannot be affected by any buffs, though. So he cannot be affected by auras, he cannot be affected by shouts, he cannot be affected by curses or any kind of buff or even debuff. So he is what he is. He's a creeper. And he does some pretty significant poison damage. As you can see, this is hell difficulty, and they managed to kill him, unfortunately. But you can always just recast him. It's not really that big of a deal. Even after he is killed, though, his poison mat will stay on the ground for a pretty significant period of time, as you can tell, until it dissipates. And any monster that touches this poison mat is going to get some pretty significant damage to them. And all you basically have to do is just run the monster through the mat. So if you drag them back to the mat and they walk through the already existing mat, they will take the poison damage. So in this way, you can take advantage of the way that the poison creeper puts out damage. Even if the poison creeper dies, just make sure the monsters are standing in the mat so they constantly keep taking the tick damage. When it comes to the poison creeper, he's never really like your main damage output, though. It's unfortunate because the creepers kind of get a bad rap because they're not really ever the thing that you build. So, like, if you're a fire druid, you spend 100 points in the fire tree, you don't really have enough points to spend into a creeper. If you're a hurricane druid, and you've got, like 20 points in cyclone, 20 points in twister, 20 points in tornado, 20 points in hurricane, you've already spent, like, most of your points anyway. And again, you're in a situation where you really don't have a lot of points left over to just drop into something. Same thing with the summon druid. You spend 20, 20, 20, 20, and probably 20 here too, and you've got 100 points again that you've spent into the summon tree, and the creepers just kind of get left to the wayside. I would like to see the druid tree made a little less synergized, like point heavy, because it's definitely one of the more point heavy characters within the game, where literally it feels like every single build requires so many points, and you just don't have any points left over for the little guy. And to get the best out of the poison creeper, you really have to dump the points into rabies as well. And you might not even be a rabies druid. Maybe you're a fire druid. Maybe you're a freaking hurricane druid. Maybe you're a werebear druid. Maybe you're a summon druid, But you might not even want to put points in rabies. But if you're going to use the poison creeper, trust me, putting points in rabies is a big difference in damage output. It's going to give you 10% poison damage per level from rabies for 20 levels, which is going to be a very nice 200% basically for the increase in poison damage. And as you can clearly see, we are in hell difficulty. And I am running around with only the poison creeper and a decent amount of negative poison resistance, by the way. I'm at 50% negative enemy poison resistance. And the poison creeper is dishing out enough poison damage on his own to kill most monsters without any help. These guys seem to be slightly poison resistant. Is this on P8 as well? I can't even remember. No, we are currently on P1. Come here, Mr. Gargantuan Beasts. Oh, his death animation is so sad, though. I always thought his death animation was really sad. Like, when you recast, he's like, oh god, oh, why you do this to me? Oh man, oh, that's so rude. Why you, oh god, don't please stop. Oh, don't resummon me again. Oh, I exploded. Oh god. Why did you do this to me? Oh god. I had to. Anyway, I think that's pretty much everything for the Poison Creeper. It's an amazing low-level skill. It's a pretty amazing accompanying skill as well. The unfortunate downside is that you really just don't have the points to spend in it. And even if you wanted to, well, most of the time you can't. And 1 point is really not going to get you a good enough Poison Creeper to actually do any significant damage. The only thing a low-level poison creeper is going to do for you is distract the monsters temporarily. There are a lot of monsters within the game that seem to prioritize attacking NPCs like golems, mercenaries, and poison creepers before everything else. And one of them is Duriel, cough cough, who will literally target your poison creeper first over everything in the game. However, the very interesting thing is that, as we just discovered, as long as the poison creeper puts a mat down before he dies, then it doesn't matter that the poison creeper is dead, because he is still dishing out damage even after he has gone. And as long as that mat stays on the ground, you are dishing out a pretty significant amount of damage for the entire duration that he's dead until the mat disappears. Then you can resummon him, he can summon a new mat, and then you can potentially get some more damage output. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we're just talking about the poison creeper. Next episode will probably be the carrion vine.